All right, let me shift gears into government-run healthcare. They're ruling on it right now. It may have already happened. And it's up in the air what's going to unfold. Supreme Court decision on healthcare. Again, they're announcing that it's officially will be today now. They were saying earlier in the week, this week. It's now today. And it's also reported that it will not be announced until late June because they have to write the decision. Well, if they do not strike the whole thing down, we are in deep trouble because the whole thing has to be struck down. And the fact that Obama argued that through his lawyers, White House lawyers, that yes, we can also give waivers to whoever we want, that is even more tyrannical. And I've already talked a lot about that. It's just unprecedented to not only have a government mandate on health care written by the insurance companies, it allows the insurance companies and banks that own them to set policy through federal computer systems that will tell doctors and nurses the procedures they can do, just like the VA. Taking that power out of the doctor that knows best at that point what procedure needs to be taken care of. And it cuts off the money at certain ages. And Biden wrote in his book, we're not going to give grandma eye surgery after 65. And you're not going to get heart surgery. You just need to go home and die. This is their plan. This is what they're planning. And the rationing of health care is what goes on in Canada and in England and in Europe and in Cuba. Everywhere they've got this is for eugenics. This is so the eugenicist can decide, and so healthcare isn't a free market thing. Healthcare should be completely deregulated, buyer beware, and you go and get whatever you do research and decide, and people will quickly discover who's got the best systems, and that will accelerate medicine. But no, it's big pharma, which are all eugenicists on record, who had the regulations written were Bayer for 11 years. I always say a decade. It was 11 years. Could ship out in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the U.S., millions of dosages of factor VIII blood product, platelets, sifted out of blood, that they'd mix all the different types together, knowing it was coming from prisons. Bill Clinton was one of the big ones making money off of it. They would sell drugs to the prisoners, and they would give the blood every week until some of them died. Doctors blew the whistles. I had them on. They got firebombed. Oh, yeah, I got firebombed. Robbed, firebombed. Had the Hemophilia Society on, talking about it, and a week later they get robbed. This is my life. This is the government. Remember, that happened in like 99. I tried to call and get those doctors back on. They're like, nope, I'm getting death threats. They firebombed us. They robbed the Hemophiliac Society. We're done. I gave it to Congress. I gave it to the states. Nobody did anything. I'm done. That was a doctor who was working in the prisons. And they knowingly shipped it out to millions of people. Well, it was millions of dosages. It was hundreds of thousands of people. Factor VIII that they knew had HIV and multiple forms of hepatitis, you name it, a death warrant, murder. And it came out that Bayer knew and said, ship it. They didn't just do that because they wanted the money. Do you know about Bayer Pharmaceutical? Do you know about their history? You might want to go look into them. Nazis? Yeah. Bayer. And where did they learn everything they knew? Oh, England, the eugenicist. It's all the eugenicist. And that's why yesterday, whenever one of my IT people, one of 6, great crew member, was called in by the FBI because a year ago he did some websites for the biggest bar owners in town who've been arrested. Government claims they're involved in narcotics and stuff. And they call him in, and I said, you do whatever you want, but if they bring me up and start saying you're a criminal and trying to associate with me, look out. And sure enough, it went into that. them trying to turn him into some type of informant and telling him he's a criminal when he'd done nothing. That's why he went in there. He's like, well, I haven't done anything. I'll just go in there and talk to him. And then it turned around to me, and that's why I went on air and said, don't you dare think about trying to turn my employee into some type of informant for you and then set me up. We're looking for that. And whether or not they really are criminals, these particular FBI agents, I don't know. I've got their names. I got to look into them. All I know is you work for a Justice Department that shipped guns into Mexico that have killed thousands of people conservatively in Mexico, hundreds on this side, 6 law enforcement people, 3 Border Patrol, 3 police. Last time I checked, it's always growing. That's what we know. And no one got in trouble, and the government ships the drugs in on record. And just had a piece of equipment or something go out. That was weird. I just got some feedback. So all of that is going on. And so it's like the time the FBI was calling me about some stuff on the message board, comments. And it was like, why are you bringing up the Obama deception to me? Why? I mean, you're wanting to know about somebody who made comments on the website. If you want to get those records, get a subpoena, and they did. Why are you using this as a dragnet into my life? I'm not doing anything wrong. Even though you guys are constantly passing kangaroo laws to grab as many of us in your net as you can, even with all the laws the way they are, I sat there this morning and thought, is there anything I'm doing wrong? And I'm like, no. Speeding? It doesn't matter. The system will make up whatever they want. That's why I'm not for the death penalty anymore. I believe child molesters, killers need to be executed, but you can't trust a government that we've now learned in some cases more than 1/3 of the people on death row are totally innocent, and the system knows. It came out from a prosecutor in Round Rock that this guy had been in jail for decades, and they knew who the killer was, but for their careers, they just said, keep the innocent person in jail. And then when it came out, they did it. This is just north of Austin, where I live. No one even got in trouble. I mean, that's why I don't trust any of you. That's why I expect the worst, because the system wants to make us think we're the bad people and we've all done something wrong. Meanwhile, they're the group that has to be watched. They're the group that can't be trusted. Government is like fire. It's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. You know, I see encouraging signs like the judge for the 2nd time in a row saying release Atari. They were totally set up, that militia. I knew that day one. It's a shake and bake setup deal just to demonize the Second Amendment and freedom and to create an atmosphere of the government waging war on the American people. That's a good sign. A bunch of states are passing laws or have already passed laws saying police don't secretly arrest citizens, don't help the feds. In fact, arrest feds if you see them doing it. Kidnapping's illegal. I mean, that's government kidnapping under NDAA. People are taking action. If the Supreme Court rules that this is unconstitutional, man, I want to win. I want to turn things around. I want to believe the FBI is good. I want to believe my local police are good. Show me. Show me. I haven't seen a lot of that in my life. All I see is a system always trying to treat me like I've done something. I can't fly to see family and people with my children because I don't want men grabbing my daughters and my son's genitals. That's a no-brainer. It turned out the TSA has files on me and others. Bob Barr's got the intel suing over it. And I'm called an extremist and dangerous because I don't want my children molested? I mean, come on. Sanity is not a crime. Legalize freedom. And the Supreme Court did rule the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. They added a little proviso that there could be some regulation, but I mean, it wasn't a total attack. So we can win this thing, but we got to recognize good from evil. But right now, I want to show you one of the best places to go on Infowars.com. It's the RSS feed. I've had it for like a decade. I never really talk about it enough. I'm going to go ahead and put that RSS feed up on screen for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, because I want to just read over some of these headlines for folks. Every day, a new elitist fairy tale. Now they want Earth Hour, where they make you pause and get government brainwashing. Can't make that up. Why would Health and Human Services and every other subsection of Homeland Security, that's right, there's 30 plus agencies under Homeland Security, be buying bullets? They've bought 450 plus million of one caliber of hollow points. Also, exclusive, Iran helps Syria ship oil to China. Concern over National Defense Resources Preparedness Executive Order. Army officially reprimands soldier who spoke at Ron Paul rally. Mysterious Clintonville booms caught on tape. First they said they didn't exist. Then they said they were earthquakes. Now they say just go to sleep. Flashpoint funding. UK doubles Syria rebel cash flow. People that launch missiles and work with Al-Qaeda and blow up police stations are called protesters by Anderson Cooper. And it just continues on from there. Again, another article. Disarming America. Homeland Security buys up ammo supplies. Confirmed. Michigan pig ban will affect your domesticated pig. Barbaric abortion policies in China. I have an incredible report on that. Cashless society may be closer than most people would ever dare to know. Big article on that, breaking down how close it is. That is just some of what is coming up. We also have some of the Infowars.com reporter contest videos. Some of the first submissions have gone up because so much of what we cover ends up scrolling off the front page because we're posting so much. It goes into the archives and it goes into Infowars.com/feed. We'll put that back on screen for folks. Infowars.com/feed. F-E-E-D. Infowars.com/feed. And I think we're going to put a link up at the top that just says RSS feed, because it's just such a good way to see everything that we've put in the featured news area. Probably 30 articles a day. Just go through there, whatever we think is most important. Here's some more good news. Court hears arguments in lawsuit against Obama indefinite detention law. Judge asks government lawyers if NDAA can be used on ordinary citizens. I love how the judge is playing this game. The bill says it can be used on ordinary citizens and even non-terror related for any reason. You can be disappeared, killed, tortured. It's all there. It's on record that that's what it says. We had a whole debate about that. People can't believe this is happening, so we have to have a debate about that when it's admitted. And now the president said he wouldn't sign it, but he did. But he says he won't use it, but the power's there. And so now Chris Hedges, Pulitzer Prize winner, who's been on the show, I want to get him back on, a real liberal. You can say what you want about his policies and ideas, but he has attacked Obama. Obama's done everything Bush did and more. All you conservatives that love Bush, you should love Obama. Wars, torture, secret arrest, spying, police state. And by the way, a lot of Republicans do like Obama. I saw a bunch of so-called conservative publications come out when Drudge did that article about how it's martial law with this executive order. And they're like, oh, this has been on the books since the 50s. Yeah, when we're under nuclear attack, martial law, not for any emergency or the threat of an emergency, including civil or economic. And Mother Jones is out, making fun of myself and others that Obama's not taking liberties. We've seen a lot of announcements the last year or two about world leaders calling for global government and global taxes. Biden has come out. We have a quote coming up in the next segment. We want to create a global minimum tax, which means global standardization. And that's what the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development is also calling for. So what they want is to raise taxes globally. They say the average tax that they want worldwide is about 85% federal. You can look that up. Of course, then they're all mega bankers exempt from it all. just like they're exempt from the health care mandate. So that's how they operate. So that is coming up. We're going to be talking about the police state with Fritz Springmeier and his research into that coming up in the next segment. Again, court hears arguments in lawsuit against Obama indefinite detention law. Judge asks government lawyers if NDAA can be used on ordinary citizens. A federal court in New York heard arguments Thursday for a preliminary injunction against the National Defense Authorization Act, the bill signed by Obama that legislates for the indefinite detention of American citizens without trial. Just like justices this week asked the White House lawyers, they said, okay, you're saying you won't use this mandate to make people eat broccoli, but you could under this, so let's just take that out. They're like, no, we don't want to take that out. But you said you're not going to use it. And you say you're not going to give people waivers anymore, but you want to keep that in there. You see, if something is on the books that's illegal, you got to get it off. Like, the government wants something on the books that they can roast children, but only on blue moons and only if they wear pink napkins while they do it. You know, something ridiculous like that. It's like, well, it is in law that the White House can have a barbecue once a year on a blue moon and roast children. But guys, will you pull up the definition of a blue moon? There is such a thing as a blue moon. 2 full moons in 1 month. There you go. So, it's on the books. You're like, well, take that you can roast children on blue moons off the thing. We're not going to use it. We're not going to use it. We'll take it off then. Well, we might use it. That's what they said at the Supreme Court. Of course they demanded this be in there and went through all the pressure in Congress to get it. U.S. District Judge Catherine Forrest heard testimony from 7 witnesses, including MIT professor Noam Chomsky, Pentagon paper source Daniel Ellsberg, and Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, author, and Middle East expert Chris Hedges. Hedges himself filed a class action lawsuit claiming that the indefinite detention provision of the legislation, otherwise known as the Homeland Battlefield Bill, could see him sent to Guantanamo Bay simply for doing his job. And at the very least, would have a chilling effect on the work of journalists and activists. Yeah, Obama is targeting journalists everywhere and arresting them for talking to whistleblowers that expose crime. He has the most secretive administration. He's engaged in all these crimes. He's spying without warrants on citizens. It's all admitted. It's all illegal. And then what do you get? I could spend all day on this. Mother Jones. The rights Obama martial law fail. No, President Obama is not coming to steal your house and take all the food out of your fridge. Really, there's not executive orders to confiscate hoarded food. There's not executive orders. FEMA expanding the floodplains, taking homes. There's not, government's not raising taxes and bankrupting people. The IRS isn't taking homes. And their argument is, well, there's been provisions for decades for martial law. He just is updating it. Yeah, not for nuclear attack, but for any reason, including the threat of emergency. And then Mother Jones points to WorldNet Daily whitewashing it and points to Michelle Malkin whitewashing it and says, see, even they know. No, they don't know. And I'm not attacking WorldNet Daily. The point is, they had an article saying, well, these experts say it's no big deal. You know, this has been on the books a long time. Yeah, like the Patriot Act wasn't going to be used on citizens, and now it is. Been on the books a long time. Slavery was on the books for hundreds of years. Does that make it okay? There is a sickening article that I was just mentioning in the last segment in Mother Jones saying, oh, it's been debunked. This executive order Obama signed, you know, it's been around for 60 years. He just reauthorized it. It's no big deal. Alex Jones is bad. Why, even look, Michelle Malkin is saying Jones is wrong. Michelle Malkin, I've had her on saying that she is for arresting all the Arabs and putting them in concentration camps, Muslims. That she thinks that all of that is basically reasonable and good. Well, she wrote a book called The Case for Internment. Yeah, it was reasonable to grab all those Japanese. It was reasonable to have them disappear. It was reasonable to do all that and take their property. See, what happens is you don't get told you're right when everything you talk about comes true. What happens is people just say, okay, they're spying on us without warrants. Head of the CIA says that. Okay, they're secretly arresting people. What's the big deal? You're bad. You're like, no, before you said this would never happen. Now it's happening. You know, they're telling us torture's good, secret arrest. Obama says, I'm against that secret arrest provision. I want it out. Turns out he demanded it be in, and then only he had the power. And then he said he wouldn't sign it, and of course he did sign it. It's all, and so I'm still having debates with people about, Obama didn't sign that. Just like people would say, Bush didn't, is it for the assault weapons ban? You know, back 4 or 5 years ago. And I'd say, yeah, he was. Shut up, you liar. And I'd go, no, he really was for it. They just can't believe that their political hero, that their political rock star would be lying to them, because they're into the con game. They're into being conned. They're into being... I've seen people that have gotten involved in Ponzi schemes. I've had people, friends, and even distant family years ago who are like, yeah, this Nigerian prince wants to give me $1 million. I'm like, that's a Nigerian email scam. And they're like, no, it isn't. It's real. I just give them 5,000, I get $1 million. And I'm like, you're not gonna get your money back. It's a scam. Please let me show you. They're like, nope, you're just jealous that I've got this opportunity. And I'm like, okay. And are they ever sorry later that you were right? No. The more you're right, the worse you are. The more you're proven right, people never say, oh, wow, he was right about that. They just move on to the next thing. And that's part of this delusional garbage that's going on. But what about the NDAA? What about the Patriot Act being used against non-terror-related groups like we told you it would? What about all the secret arrests? What about arresting people for filming police? What about the TSA? What about the checkpoints everywhere now? What about the CIA involved domestically? What about the torture? What about arresting hundreds of reporters who talk to whistleblowers about government corruption? Obama has probably 5,000-fold. I mean, reporters say it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times what Bush did, just going after reporters, going after free speech, arresting people, just everything. And real liberals, say what you want about them, but they're consistent in their ideology and expose Obama for being a fascist globalist, like Noam Chomsky, Chris Hedges, and others. They're having to sue because they could be arrested for the type of people they talk to under NDAA. And does Mother Jones come out and talk about their case? No. Mother Jones comes out and says, the rights Obama martial law fail. No, President Obama is not coming to steal your house and take all the food out of your fridge. I mean, these wartime executive orders are for work brigades, organizing the economy, taking over the economy, taking over communications, taking over food, hoarding rules. It's all there. The point is, Obama's got it out of mothballs, a nuclear attack scenario, and is firing it up and announcing FEMA Corps with high school kids. And I went and looked it up years ago before they even announced it. It was called Secure Corps, part of AmeriCorps. Same thing. Now they call it FEMA Corps. And it is warrant service, homeland security, and protecting your community, Eagle Eye programs. It's spies. I mean, I get attacked by Mother Jones a few years ago for saying that Obama wants a national draft. I have C-SPAN with Rahm Emanuel, at the time White House chief of staff. I have Obama in tapes. I mean, I've played them saying, yeah, you'll all be required to serve in high school, and then so many months a year after that until you're 25, and it'll be basic training at military bases, but it's going to be domestic. And they'll come out and say I'm lying about that, hoping you don't go watch the video on C-SPAN. I'm sick of it. And the fact that Obama argued that through his lawyers, White House lawyers, that yes, we can also give waivers to whoever we want, that is even more tyrannical. And I've already talked a lot about that. It's just unprecedented to not only have a government mandate on health care written by the insurance companies. It allows the insurance companies and banks that own them to set policy through federal computer systems that will tell doctors and nurses the procedures they can do, just like the VA. Taking that power out of the doctor that knows best at that point what procedure needs to be taken care of. And it cuts off the money at certain ages. And Biden wrote in his book, we're not going to give grandma eye surgery after 65. And you're not going to get heart surgery. You just need to go home and die. This is their plan. This is what they're planning. And the rationing of health care is what goes on in Canada and in England. There's hundreds of thousands of people. Factor VIII that they knew had HIV and multiple forms of hepatitis, you name it, a death warrant, murder. And it came out that Bayer knew and said, ship it. They didn't just do that because they wanted the money. Do you know about Bayer Pharmaceutical? Do you know about their history? You might want to go look into them. Nazis, yeah. Bayer. And where did they learn everything they knew? Oh, England, the eugenicist. It's all the eugenicist. And that's why yesterday, whenever one of my IT people, one of 6, great crew member, was all right, let me shift gears into government-run health care. They're ruling on it right now. It may have already happened. And it's up in the air what's going to unfold. Supreme Court decision on health care. Again, they're announcing that it's officially will be today now. They were saying earlier in the week, this week. It's now today. And it's also reported that it will not be announced until late June because they have to write the decision. Well, if they do not strike the whole thing down, we are in deep trouble because the whole thing has to be struck down. England and in Europe and in Cuba. Everywhere they've got this is for eugenics. This is so the eugenicist can decide, and so healthcare isn't a free market thing. Healthcare should be completely deregulated, buyer beware, and you go and get whatever you do research and decide, and people will quickly discover who's got the best systems, and that will accelerate medicine. But no, it's big pharma, which are all eugenicists on record, who had the regulations written were Bayer for 11 years. I always say a decade. It was 11 years. Could ship out in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the U.S., millions of dosages of Factor VIII blood product, platelets, sifted out of blood, that they'd mix all the different types together, knowing it was coming from prisons. Bill Clinton was one of the big ones making money off of it. They would sell drugs to the prisoners, and they would give the blood every week until some of them died. Doctors blew the whistles. I had them on. They got firebombed. Oh, yeah, I got firebombed. Robbed, firebombed. Had the Hemophilia Society on, talking about it, and a week later they get robbed. This is my life. This is the government. Remember, that happened in like 99. I tried to call and get those doctors back on. They're like, nope, I'm getting death threats. They firebombed us. They robbed the Hemophiliac Society. We're done. I gave it to Congress. I gave it to the states. Nobody did anything. I'm done. That was a doctor who was working in the prisons. And they knowingly shipped it out to millions of people. Well, it was millions of dosages.